Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for attending our Guardianship Clinic registration info event in conjunction with Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project. My name is Larissa Moore and I serve as the General Counsel for Jackson Public Schools. Tonight we will be doing a few things. We will be going through giving you some information about registration and the enrollment process. Later this evening you will be having an opportunity to make an appointment for registration. We also have Ms. Gayla Carpenter-Sanders here from Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project, who will provide you with information about how to obtain a guardianship, what a guardianship is. Now we will have Ms. Rayford with Enrollment Services. She will come up and give you a little bit of information about the registration process, and then we will be joined by Ms. Gayla Carpenter-Sanders with Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project.
My name is Janet Rayford, and I'm located at the Poindexter Administrative Complex, located at 1017 Robinson Street. Many of you, maybe some of you in here have already come to our department in years past to register. With a non-parental, you will still need your traditional proofs of residency, 2 proofs of residency. I have some flyers, some little paperwork in the back showing you what proofs that you do need for proofs of residency, and you may even be in a situation where you need shared residency affidavit. If you do, you would have to have an affidavit already notarized and filled out completely. Whoever the homeowner that you live with wouldn't have to come with you for the appointment. You would have to schedule an appointment to come to our building to register the children under the shared residency affidavit process. You will still need your 2 proofs of residency, your 1 proof of residency, and the homeowner 2 proofs of residency.
Now we will have Ms. Gayla Carpenter-Sanders with Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project. She will be providing information about guardianships and the upcoming guardianship clinic that will be held in Hinds County Chancery Court.
I am a JPS parent as well, so I know that this time of the year is the time of the year that's kind of overwhelming for us as we're trying to get our kids registered in school. And of course, there are some roadblocks that you may have. Some of the roadblocks may deal with guardianships, and so I'm thankful to Attorney Moore and her office for having the foresight to have this informational, because this is a lot of information that we see at the Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project, unfortunately, when it's too late after school has started and now there's a rush to get guardianships. So it's a good thing that this is on the front end so that we can kind of help JPS and parents with enrollment for the children on the front end. So this presentation is going to give you the basics of guardianships. I'm going to talk about an event that's coming up next week, next Friday, for those of you who may need to obtain guardianships. I'm going to talk about what a guardianship is. I'm going to talk about the people who may need to consider a guardianship. I'm not going to make it too complex because the goal for tonight is just for you to determine if a guardianship is something that you need. So what is a guardianship? A guardianship is a legal proceeding filed to protect a person who, because of age or infirmity, cannot take care of himself or herself. Now, the first few words there, a guardianship is a legal proceeding. What does that tell us? That tells us that if something is a legal proceeding, we have to go through the court process. A lot of times people will think, okay, well, I'll present this affidavit. This person signs off on this affidavit. It's a legal document because I've signed it, they've signed it. We're going to take it to the school. We're going to register this child. I'm the child's guardian. The mother has told me so. The father has told me so, and we're good to go. No, it's a legal proceeding, which means you need to go through the court process in order to be determined to be a legal guardian. Now, for purposes of this clinic, you may have heard of adult guardianships, conservatorships. We're going to be focusing on minors, guardianships of minors, because that's who we're trying to enroll in school, okay? So the first thing that you need to know that there's a difference between guardianship and custody, okay? Custody is that arrangement between parents, the natural parents or the adopted parents of a child, who the child is going to live with, who has decision-making rights, whether or not it's going to be joint, whether I'm going to be the person who has sole custody of a child. That's a custody proceeding. Guardianship is a little different. while it does involve the support and the care and the maintenance of a child, guardianships are of those people who are raising a child that is not their own child. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, family, friends. Those individuals are the people who are seeking guardianships. Next slide. So it's important that we discuss some very important definitions, because you're going to hear those definitions. You're going to hear these words today. So the first one is a guardian. Who is a guardian? The guardian is that person who has been appointed by the court. Again, it's a legal proceeding. You have to be appointed by the court. That person who has gone through the process, and we're going to talk about that process in a minute, that is the person who is the guardian. The ward is the person who cannot take care of himself. In this particular instance, the child. The child is a ward of the court, or a ward of the state, okay? So let's talk about circumstances in which a guardianship may be necessary. And I can tell you that over the past few years, this has changed a lot. COVID-19 has really reared its ugly head in terms of our children. It has taken away mothers, it has taken away fathers, their main caretakers. And so a lot of times we have COVID, we have cancer, we have violent crimes that have taken our parents from our children, and so now we have grandparents and aunts and uncles trying to figure out what they need to do to get this child enrolled in school, to get the child health care, to just get them a stable home, something as close to what they had before their lives were disrupted. So we have circumstances like death of a natural parent, instability of, they may still have their natural parents, but the home environment may not be as stable. It may be a mom or a dad that's working a shift that's from 2 to 10 o'clock at night, and there's somebody that's not there able to take care of the child. So they may not have the best home environment for the child. That's another situation. We have deployment, people who are overseas, and their children need to be taken care of. We have incarceration of our mothers and dads that are causing kids to be raised by other individuals. And then we also have those who are terminally ill, parents who are terminally ill. I just had a phone call the other day of an aunt whose niece has a 2-year-old daughter. The mother took some medication, blood pressure medication that she had an allergic reaction to, and she had to be induced into a coma. And so the question is, what needs to happen to this child right now in terms of enrollment in school, because the mom has not done that yet. So all of these things come to play. We have emergency situations that take place. So these are some circumstances where a guardianship may be necessary. What are the responsibilities of a guardian? Okay, I know as a parent, it's an awesome responsibility to be a parent. You have that same responsibility as a guardian. First, as I keep saying, you got to be appointed by the court. You have to always act in the child's best interest. And there's some of these that you may not be able to see from a distance. I'll read it to you. You have the duty and responsibility of a natural parent for the minor's support, care, education, health, safety, and welfare. You must be personally acquainted with that child in order to be able to articulate, in order to report to the court everything about this child. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because there's going to be a report or some reporting that you may have to do may be involved in with the court once you're appointed guardian. And so you will need to know things about the child. If that child has some disability, educational disability, if that child has some emotional issues going on that may affect that child, where the child may need treatment, things that the court will need to know about. A lot of times with guardianships, the guardian may feel as if the court is, imposing a lot on the personal aspects of that child. But you have to remember that this child is a ward of the state. It's a ward of the court. So the court, in addition to your responsibilities as a guardian, the court is responsible for making sure that this child stays safe and remains in a stable environment. So any questions or any reporting that you may have to do, or anything you have to report to the judge about the emotional stability of a child, those things are important. Yes, it's in a court document, but it's important for the court to know, because the court is there to assist you to make sure that this child is as whole as can be. Now, if you can go back just a quick second. There was another part of there about a responsibility of the guardian that talked about expending money. It says that you can expend any money received on behalf of the minor for the minor's current needs for support, care, education, health, safety, and welfare. Any money received for the benefit of the minor needs to be reported to the court. So let me go back to that example of parents who have died as a result of an illness or whatever. A lot of times that child may be entitled to Social Security benefits. You have to let the court know if you are filing Social Security for that particular child, or if that child has already started receiving Social Security benefits. If that child is already receiving Social Security benefits, you have to report that to the court, because the court needs to know what this child is receiving and making sure that that money is used for the child's benefit. Other responsibilities, again, applying for and receiving benefits, commencing a proceeding or taking appropriate action to compel a person to support the minor or make a payment for the benefit of the minor. What are we talking about there? We're talking about child support. If you are taking care of a child and there is another parent that exists, then you may be able to conduct a separate legal proceeding to get child support transferred to that child, or to start a child support action for that child. All of these are powers that are given to you as a guardian. Again, you get the same responsibility that a parent has. So you can go and file for child support through DHS as a guardian. The same thing that a parent can do, a guardian would be able to do. And then you would also, this last one is very important, you can consent to health or other care, treatment, or services for the minor. That's important, because when we start taking care of children who are not our biological children, we think that on that line where it says legal guardian, that we can just sign that. A lot of healthcare providers will stop you and say, okay, well, I need the actual paperwork showing that you are the legal guardian. You have to show the court order. You have to show the letters of administration that's been given to you as a guardian. So, or else you wouldn't be able to get the treatment for the child. So that's important, not only just enrollment in school, but being able to get the child health care necessities taken care of. What can you not do as a guardian? You cannot just decide to transfer custody of the child to the natural parents without court approval. So if you go through the legal proceedings and you have been appointed guardian, but then the mother or the father comes up and says, hey, I'm ready to take custody of the child, you can't just say, okay, here, the child can go ahead and start living with you. You have to get court approval first, because in the court's eyes, you are the person that they've deemed responsible to take care of that child. The court wants to be able to track that child and make sure that child is getting the stability that the child needs. And so you would have to go through the court to make sure that it's okay for you to terminate that guardianship if you're trying to transfer to the natural parent. If you're trying to move and you need to change residence of the child, if you're trying to move out of state because you have a better job opportunity, you can do that, but you need to first go to the court and get approval for it and advise the court that that's what you intend to do. Again, the court has to keep up with the child. And this last one is very important. You can't knowingly or negligently allow the minor to be in the unaccompanied presence of any person who is a sex offender or in the presence of a person from whom the minor was taken by a youth court. So if the parents were deemed unstable and the child was taken from them and you're appointed guardian, you can't then go back and send that child to that particular parent. You just can't, because the court wants to make sure that this child is in no danger, and you want to make sure that this child is not in any danger. So those are things that you cannot do unless you go before the court and get court approval. Everything is going to be involving a legal proceeding from this point once you're appointed as guardian. Next slide. How do I obtain guardianship? You have to file a petition in Chancery Court, okay? Chancery Court is that court that handles family law cases, like divorces, adoptions. If you want to know where Chancery Court is, it's the building that you go to get your tag renewed. It's the building that you go to for your homestead exemptions. All of those things that are taken care of in Chancery Court, that's where you would go for this type of proceeding. Now, how do you know which county you need to go in? Let's say this child is living in, let's say this child was brought to you from Pike County down in Macomb, and the child is now living with you. How do you know you're not supposed to go to Pike County as opposed to Hinds County? Well, this is what Mississippi law says. It says venue for a guardianship proceeding for a minor is in the county in which the minor resides or is present at the time the proceeding commences. So if a parent sends the child to you, that child came from Pike County and is living with you right now in Hinds County, you can go over to Hinds County Chancery Court and get that guardianship obtained. Or it can be in the county where another proceeding concerning custody or parental rights of the minor is pending. So let's take that child back in Pike County, and there is a youth court proceeding right now in Macomb, in Pike County, for that child. You can file the guardianship in Pike County so that they will know that this child, who is a resident of their county, is going to be moving to a new county. But if that child is living with you right now, you can go ahead and proceed in Hinds County. What is required in the petition? A lot of things, okay? The petition now is about a 3 or 4 page document. About 2 years ago, 2020 to be exact, there was a new law that took effect that reformed guardianships in Mississippi. And the whole purpose for reforming guardianships in Mississippi was to make sure that every child is accounted for. So if someone tells you, well, I got guardianship 5 years ago and you don't have to do all of that. So don't listen to an attorney who is telling you you have to put all of that in the petition. That's not true, okay? The law has changed, and so there are more requirements to make a guardian more accountable to the court for the child. The name and physical address of the minor's biological parents need to be in there. You have to have the birth certificate of the minor child because it needs to be attached to the petition. Death certificate of the parent if one of the parents is no longer living. Addresses for the minor child for the past 5 years, because there is a provision in there where you have to list where that child has lived from 5 years, from 5 years to this particular date. Every address where that child has lived needs to be placed in the petition. So you need to know as much of that as possible. You may not know all of that information, but you need to know as much as you can so that we can put it in the petition. If you don't know it, then we can make that statement in the petition, but you have to at least do a diligent search to figure out where that child has been for the last 5 years. You have to state why that guardianship is necessary. Is it because a parent is incarcerated? Is it because a parent is deceased? Is it because a parent does not have a stable home environment and you have the more stable home environment? And then you also have to have a declaration of the petitioner stating a few things. And this is the part that's new, that did not have to be in the petitions before, but it's a necessary component. And again, this is the portion where, when I've met with clients, they tend to think that this is overly burdensome and invasive of their privacy and not sure why it's relevant, but this is what's required. you have to state whether or not you were a debtor in bankruptcy, insolvency, or receivership proceeding, and whether or not you have been convicted of any of the following: a felony, a crime involving dishonesty, neglect, violence, or use of physical force, or other crime relevant to the functions the person would assume as guardian or conservator. Now, you have to attest these things, or you have to state these things in your petition, but it's not a bar to becoming guardian. It's not a block to you becoming guardian. You just have to make sure you state that. And if the court wants to go into more detail and ask you questions about that, they will do that to make sure that, you know, this is not something that is pending or that it's safe for the child to be with you. All of this may seem invasive, but it's really just to make sure that child is safe. Other necessary documents to be filed. You have to have a summons, letters of guardianship, oath of guardianship, nomination. Let me go back to summons. What we see a lot are individuals who are obtaining or attempting to take legal guardianship over a child, and we know who the mother is. The mother is consenting to it, but the father may not be listed on the birth certificate, or the father is unknown altogether, and we don't know where he is, we don't know who he is. So you have to publish a summons in the newspaper, and it has to be in the newspaper of the county where it's pending. So if it's pending in Hinds County, whatever that local newspaper is, we would have to publish to any unknown fathers about the particular court date to give them an opportunity to contest the guardianship or to approve of the guardianship. Why is that important? Because in Mississippi, the law is that the natural parents are the natural guardians of a child, and that the mother's rights are not more important than the father's rights, and the father's rights are not more important than the mother's rights. But if the mother is not able to parent the child, then guardianship or custody automatically goes to the father, or vice versa. If the father is taking care of the child and it can no longer take care of the child, custody automatically goes to the mother. But if you have a situation where neither one of them are able to provide service to that child or support for that child, then they need to make sure that someone is appointed to take care of them. So that's why that summons is important, because you have to give that individual, you have to give that other parent, if they're living, you have to give them notice that custody is being changed over to another person that is not the natural parent. And it may be a situation where the dad says, you know, hey, I want to take custody of this child. I had that just last year. We had a mother who died. The grandmother immediately took custody of the children, but the father said, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to raise my child. That's what I want to do. I'm a parent. I want to do that. And so that meant the grandparent had to step aside because the father was suitable and had a stable environment to take care of the child. So in the instance where you don't have a mother or a father, that summons is very important, because you have to give notice to that parent that there's a court proceeding where custody is being changed over to someone that's not a parent, not a natural parent. Nomination, that fourth one, nomination of guardian by a minor. That person, that minor that you're taking guardianship over, that child, if that child is over 14, they get to consent to the petition, or they must consent to the petition, or they have a say as to whether or not they want to go with that particular guardian. Of course, the judge will weigh the reasons that the child is giving, but just know that if the child that you're trying to obtain guardianship over is over the age of 14, they have to consent to that, to you becoming their guardian. Parental waiver of guardianship, that's that mother and father again. If the mother is living and the father is living and they are in agreement with you taking guardianship of the child, they have to execute that parental waiver of guardianship, basically saying they consent to it. They don't have to be served with process by a process server or through the newspaper in order to declare that they want you to be the guardian. All of that can be taken care of by them signing that parental waiver of guardianship. Well-being report of a minor, that's talking about that mental stability. You have to be well acquainted with that child so that you can report to the court everything about that child, where that child is in school, the grades that child is making, emotional health of the child. All of that has to be reported in that well-being report of a minor. And the certificate of fiduciary, that's the other document that's new to the new provisions under the Guardianship Act that was passed in 2020. You have to now sign a certificate of fiduciary saying that you understand your role as a guardian and your responsibilities. Yes, this is the ultimate question that we always hear, that we always are asked by people. Will we need to attend a guardianship hearing? Yes. Okay, yes. Some judges do it differently. Some judges will ask you to take the stand, and they will ask you questions, or there may be an attorney that will ask you questions. Usually it's going to be your attorney that will ask the questions, but you will have to attend a court hearing. Some judges may say, okay, well, just bring the order into my chambers, into my office, and they may review the file. They may not ask any questions, and they may just sign off on the order. But more than likely, they will have a court hearing, and you will have to take the stand in most cases, especially if you're representing yourself. You're going to have to take the stand in a court hearing. Reporting. In the order that gives you guardianship, there are a lot of provisions that are laid out by the judge as to reporting. Some judges may say you can report to me every year. Some judges may say every other year. Some judges may say it depends on if something happens between now and 12 months, if that child comes into any money that the court needs to be aware of. Anything like that, you will have to report that to the court. And it would usually state in your order when the report is done. So if today is July 17th or July 18th, and I have received a court order saying that I have to report annually to the court about this child, then that means by July 18th, 2023, there needs to be a report in the file where I'm giving the court everything about that child that the court is requesting. That's my contact information. I'm Gayla Carpenter Sanders. I'm Executive Director of the Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project. I want to talk to you about an upcoming legal clinic that we're having. This is, I think, probably the 6th or 7th clinic that we have done with Hinds County Chancery Court. And when I say we, I mean all of the partners down there, Foreman Watkins Law Firm, Jackson Public Schools, Mission First, my organization, the Mississippi Volunteer Lawyers Project, and the Capital Area Bar Association. We come together each year to help the Hinds County Chancery Court with a family law clinic. So the judges over in the Chancery Courthouse, our Hinds County Chancery Court judges, years ago decided that they wanted to do something to help the community every year with legal proceedings for individuals who may not be able to afford an attorney. And they wanted to do a one-day event every year when those individuals can come in and meet with attorneys for free and get legal advice or, in a lot of instances, legal documents drafted. So the way this clinic is set up, and you can see the areas of law that we're helping with. Guardianships is one of them. Divorces, visitation, custody, birth certificate corrections, and a host of other types of cases, emancipations and name changes. We're having attorneys who are going to be at the courthouse on July 29th, and they will be set up in different rooms, and they will be ready to answer any questions that you have and or draft any documents that you may need. So today, the whole purpose of me coming today to talk about guardianships was, in the event that you need that done, you can come to the clinic to have that done. Now, the clinic is not just for everyone. It's first of all set aside to those who register for the clinic. And those who register for the clinic, we have to have some income requirements. You cannot make over a certain amount of money. So my organization helps individuals who are at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. So what does that mean? That means if you are a family of two, you can't make more than $31,000 a year of all of the income combined in your household. And it goes up per family. The amount increases according to the number of people in your home. And so what you would do, there's a QR code on this flyer, and there are flyers in the back. You can just scan that QR code and complete it online. It's going to ask you information about wages, governmental assistance that you receive. It's going to ask you whether or not you receive income from any family or friends. All of that information has to be completed. What do we do with that information? We just turn it over to our grantors, which is the Legal Services Corporation, who gives us money to fund our clinics and to fund our program. We do not send it to credit bureaus. We don't go back and review your intake forms after it's over. Once you have completed the intake form with us and we deem you eligible to participate in the clinic, then you come and we provide the service to you. Okay. As I said, the application is going to take you probably about 7 to 10 minutes to complete, but we need as much information as possible. Now, if you are not tech savvy and you cannot complete forms online, you can contact our office, but the quickest way to get processed is to go through our online portal to do that. And that QR code is on the flyer for you to go directly to the link to sign up for the clinic. If you have documents that are related to the child other than the birth certificate, let's say there is a youth court document that has given you temporary legal custody of a child, or if there is some other type of legal document court document that is, related to that child, bring it with you to the clinic because we need as much as possible. If you have applied for Social Security benefits for that child and you're still waiting, bring that letter from Social Security saying that this is pending and that the child may get this amount. Even though the child has not gotten the first check yet, we need to know all of that information, okay? But if you have court documents related to the child, bring it with you. A lot of times we'll have people come to the clinic with a folder filled with documents, and they don't know what is relevant and what's not relevant. Bring the folder, because an attorney can tell you what they need or what you need to have in the pleading, or it may help answer a question for the attorney. All of these attorneys are donating their services. So when you come to the clinic, there is no charge to come to the clinic. Another thing that I forgot to say is that for many years now, for this clinic, the Hinds County Chancery Court has waived filing fees. Filing fees for guardianship, I think, is $150 and maybe above. They have waived that filing fee for this clinic. So if you come to the clinic, you don't pay the filing fee, okay? If you have to pay to have something published in the newspaper, we can't control that cost. You would have to pay that. But you're not paying for the attorney because they're donating their time to that clinic. And we have, as of today, about 28 attorneys who are going to be there helping, and they're ready to help. So you don't have to pay for attorney's fees. You don't have to pay for court costs on that day. So I would make every effort to try to come to that clinic if you can. It's from 9 to 12. I can tell you that we will accept some walk-ins, but it's going to be limited based on capacity. So if you're right now not sure if you can come to that clinic and you say, okay, well, I'll just wait and walk in, you may or may not be served. It just depends on the capacity that we have, the number of people who have registered. And we have people who are registering every day for the clinic.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, how long does the process usually take?
That's an excellent question. That depends on each case. So if it's a situation where you have both parents are consenting to the guardianship, that will not take as long. That's something that could be done less than 30 days, less than 20 days, depending on the court's availability to have a hearing too, because you have to schedule a hearing. So it depends on the court's availability to hear the case. But that can be done rather quickly. If you have a situation where the father is not on the birth certificate, so we have to publish it in the newspaper, the publication in the newspaper is for 3 consecutive weeks. And you can't have that hearing until 30 days after that first publication. So that can take in excess of a month or more. And then that hearing depends on when the court is available. It may be a situation where the parents are saying, yeah, we're going to consent, but they haven't signed that form yet saying that they're consenting, and they're still holding it and holding it. It may not get done as fast. So it really depends on a case-by-case basis as to how quickly it can be done. But what I will say, and Attorney Moore, I don't want to speak out of turn for the district, but what we have done in some situations when you're trying to enroll the child, if you go ahead and get the documents drafted at the clinic, what we do is, you leave with your petition. You may not have the order granted just yet, but you leave with the petition. And if there's like an additional letter that the district will require from me or from my office saying that this person has come to a clinic and they're trying to go through the guardianship process, some districts have allowed that, but you have to get it done quickly after that. And I don't know if the district does that or not, but okay. So JPS will allow that. They'll allow you to bring in that petition, but you got to get that order completed as soon as possible.
And again, y'all, that petition is something that's actually filed with the court. It's not an intention. Well, I intend to file it, or I signed up but I didn't go. You have to go to the clinic, have that filed petition from the court, and that's something that I and Ms. Sanders can pull up. I can pull it up on the court system to see if it's actually filed, and so you can get your registration process going. But as she just said, it can take some time. So you want to go ahead and get it in early so that you're not in the middle of school starting and haven't gotten your scholar registered yet. I have another question for you.
Before you ask, let me insert this too while I'm thinking about it. For those of you who come to the clinic, remember I mentioned that the fees are waived. If you decide, if you get the pleadings drafted on that day and you take the pleadings with you and you don't file them on that day for whatever reason, and you decide to come back a week later or 2 weeks later to file it, you will have to pay that filing fee. The filing fee is only waived on the day of the clinic, July 29th. It's not going to be waived August 5th. It's only going to be waived on July 29th.
Okay. Do you have to be related to the child to file for guardianship?
No, you do not have to be related to the child, but we do need, I ask for as much information as possible with regard to that child. I need a little bit more than, I'm good friends with the mother, or I'm good friends with the father. The court may require a little bit more information for purposes of a guardianship when you're not related to the child. It doesn't mean that you can't be named guardian, but there may be a little bit more information that is required.
And what documents do I need to be gathering in preparation for this clinic that's on July 29th?
Yeah,
I know you mentioned a death certificate.
Yeah, you need the death certificate. You need to bring the birth certificate, any court documents related to that child. If it's a visitation order that's in place, or a child support order in place, or Social Security benefits pending, We need all of those documents related to that child. You also need to bring a valid driver's license or state-issued ID as well, because we'll need to verify that you are who you are and you can sign your documents that day in order to get it filed, because you have to have notarized documents in order to file it with the clerk's office. So you need to bring your driver's license as well. But bring as many documents that you have related to that child.
In the event that a parent does not meet the financial...
In the event that a parent does not qualify for the financial constraints of this free guardianship clinic, would you be able to refer them to another group of attorneys, maybe on a sliding scale, to get some assistance?
So I can refer you to attorneys, but I cannot determine how much that attorney is going to charge you, because it's based on their own scale. And I can tell you that normally the people who I will refer you to are the people that are at that clinic, because the people who come to those clinics and donate their services, they do a lot of family law work, and they're very familiar with the Chancery Court system. They're very familiar with Hinds County Chancery Court. So a lot of times the attorneys that are present, I'll refer you to them, and they will charge you whatever their office requires for guardianships.
So if I'm a grandparent, do I have any automatic rights, or do I still need to apply for guardianship if I'm a grandparent and I have my grandchild?
You still need to apply. If you are not the natural parent or the adopted parent, you have to apply for guardianship. A guardianship is a legal proceeding, so you have to be appointed by the court. And I will say this. Just because you have that child and you have been raising that child as a grandparent for 2 or more years, if there is a parent that wants to take custody of the child and they're not going to consent to the guardianship, the judge has to hear testimony from that parent, and the judge is going to lean toward, or let me not say that. What they will do is take testimony of the parent to determine what is the best environment. But as a grandparent, just understand that you may have to step back because there is a parent that is willing and able to take care of the child. I used that example earlier. I was representing a grandparent last year, and the dad said, no, I'm not going to consent because, I want to take custody of my child. I want to raise my child. And lo and behold, when we got to court, that's how the judge ruled. The judge ruled that the grandparent has to step back. The grandparent was given some visitation, but custody went to that father.
If you have a child, natural parent is living in another state, was the mother deceased? The mom is deceased, dad is living in another state, and you're taking care of that child. The child is above the age of 14. The child is 15 or 16. Do I need guardianship for that child? Can the child still speak to who they would like to have guardianship of them?
So the answer to that question is yes, you still have to, because you're not just the automatic guardian. That father has to come in and consent to the guardianship, and if the father does not, he can come in and express why he is in disagreement with you becoming the guardian. That child does have a say as to where, let me not say the child has a say. The child can tell the court, this is where I would like to live, but the court is going to ask that child questions like why? Why do you think that this is the better environment for you? And then make a determination. But you cannot just go and enroll the child even though a parent is in another state. That parent is still the parent, and they need to be provided some type of notice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Again, y'all, remember that this QR code for you to register for this event is being held, this family law clinic. It's going to be held on Friday, July 29th. You can take a picture of it with your phone, scan that QR code so that you can go ahead and get registered. Take down the information for MVLP if you have any further questions about this clinic. If you have registration questions, you do need an appointment for registration. It helps the process go much smoother if you have an appointment ahead of time. They can also talk to you about what documents you need for registration, your 2 proofs of residency, and other relevant documents. If we have no further questions, thank you all so much for attending this. Let's be sure to get our scholars registered and registered early so that we can start the school year off, the 22-23 school year off smoothly, right?